if you go back to from when Jürgen announced I'm going on that day when we were sat here, or I was sat here doing a show previewing Norwich in the Cup, how far away that feels now. Jürgen's announcement comes out and it's right, who's it going to be? And then I don't recall anyone ever going Arne Slot. Like, he was I might be wrong, and fair play if you guys subscribe to Redmen. Let me know. Get in touch with me on Twitter, Facebook, whatever, and let me know if Arne Slot was your first choice, because I don't believe you. But maybe it would. In fact, no, I don't. I'm not calling you a liar. It felt like 95% of people wanted Xabi Alonso. There was a few other names banded about. It's not the most popular choice, but then maybe the most popular choice is either not to get involved, and then Liverpool have had to go back to the drawing board. Do you think that the day Jürgen said he was going, obviously all the stuff follows, well, who's coming back and whatever, the day they all sat down and started looking for a new manager, whenever that was, where do you think Arne Slot was then?
Oh, interesting. Listen, when it comes to the data-driven approach, you never quite know what name's going to get thrown up, because we always get told, don't we, Michael Edwards' sort of stance and the way he goes about his business, his emotion doesn't really get involved in any decision. So potentially quite high, I would say. And what was interesting, I had to laugh then, as you were saying, nobody would have mentioned him, because he was actually mentioned to me by Mark Carey of The Athletic. I've done a few shows with Mark down the years, and he told me that there's two names stylistically that sort of marry up close to Jurgen Klopp in terms of what they're doing in management terms, and it was Sebastian Hoeneß for Stuttgart and Arne Slot at Feyenoord. So I retraced my steps and found that clip the other day, and it's interesting how that was the only time it got mentioned to me, that name. So it is in the data realms, which is what Mark works on as a data analyst. It's actually quite high up on the list. So that's
a really good nugget, actually. So basically, as fans, it wasn't us, but a data guy not involved with Liverpool who does the data, Arne Slot turned out high
early doors,
so then we shouldn't be surprised.
So it shouldn't be a huge surprise. And again, it only came back to me a couple of days ago, and I went, oh, hang on, I remember Mark mentioned him and found it, and then it was, he said literally he's the next sort of best in terms of how he matches up to Jurgen Klopp style. So that was really interesting. But as you say there, in terms of immediately, I think everyone, even Michael Edwards, has been hard pressed to ignore Xabi Alonso. Not just because of the fact that obviously there's a romantic connection between us and him and what he's done previously at the club, and that's impossible to ignore, whether you're data driven or not, but also the job he's doing at Bayer Leverkusen. Like, he's unbeaten still at time of recording. It's frighteningly good. He's just won the Bundesliga, of course. So I even think Michael Edwards would have been looking at Xabi Alonso going, he's not perfect in terms of fit, but come on now. But after that, I think it was a little bit of a free-for-all after that, I must admit. So I don't think Amorim felt like the next most popular choice, of course, but in terms of what the club were looking at, I'm not sure Amorim was ever that guy.
I know there's rumours about him, George, about like money and whatever. I tell you now, if he was Liverpool's choice, he'd be the Liverpool manager. I'm not having... He'd have took the job, and if they want him, they'd have paid him. Like, I think that's all nonsense, personally. If Liverpool wanted Ruben Amorim, it would be him we were speaking about today. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I think Liverpool have chosen Arne Slot over him. Would you go along with that?
Yeah, I agree. I think that the Amorim one's a bit weird because, like you said, when Klopp announced he was leaving, I don't think there were many people. There might have been a few, but there weren't many people sort of shouting Amorim's name from the rooftops. I think we were kind of told that it probably would be him, and people maybe came to terms with that, and that's why he was thought of so fondly. But he wasn't an obvious replacement for Klopp. I don't think he was an obvious choice. I think that Slot, as much as maybe wasn't the first name that came to people's minds, he's not unheard of. I mean, Tottenham were in for him before they got Postecoglou. There was reports that Chelsea were in for him as well before they got Pochettino. So it's not as if it's sort of, it is a big step up for him, but it's not a step that hasn't been sort of proposed in the past. And I think that, yeah, it's I mean, look, I wanted Alonso as well. I think everyone did. It's just, you want someone who you know, and I think Liverpool fans do know Alonso. We know his character, we know what he's like, and he is having one of the best seasons in Europe as a manager this year. So you can't deny that. I mean, he would have been a brilliant replacement, but I think if as soon as he was off the cards, then yeah, you have to just kind of take whatever the club's decision is, because Liverpool, as much as they've made some questionable decisions under FSG, you know, they've led us definitely in the right direction. You look at how far we've come on under that Michael Edwards leadership, and now he's back. You feel like it's probably the right decision.
Yeah, like I say, the proof will be in the pudding. We'll find out, but you can't argue with the process. This is what FSG wanted in terms of the process. Dan, they bring Michael Edwards in. He brings Richard Hughes in. It is the Michael Edwards show. He's not only got the keys to the kingdom. He doesn't even work for Liverpool. No. He works for FSG. He's in charge. He's over. He's over.
CEO of football.
He's so high up. He's so high up there in that. I think we'd all agree we back Michael Edwards. You've got to back the process. If it turns out wrong, then sound. But you've got to hitch your wagon to something. And it looks like Liverpool are hitching the wagon to the data-driven, cold analytics side. And listen, that helped Liverpool get to the best team in the world at one point. What we need to see now, that worked for a while under Jurgen, and then it went stale a little bit. And by all accounts, whatever happened. It's back again now. It's a data-driven side, and Arne Slot will be fully aware of that. With Jurgen, maybe it changed throughout the process. Maybe I don't know what happened there, and as managers grow, you get more power. Yeah. Arne Slot's now back down there. Listen, if he wins trophies, he'll get power as well, and that's his thing. But he, pardon the pun, he slots right into the whole framework. He's part of that framework now. Yeah. The framework delivered him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, now he has to fit into that.
With Klopp, it always felt like it was a bit of everything, you know what I mean? Like the owners were involved heavily at that point and stuff. Like now, it is the Michael Edwards show, and they go he's on as the manager.
Yeah, Michael Edwards has cherry picked, Richard Hughes by the looks of it as well. Obviously, there's a pre-existing relationship there, and they've gone out and found Arne Slot and believe he's the right man for the job. So, and again, we've got to back that. But you're right in terms of how it'll work thereafter. It will very much be them working in tandem and as sort of a committee, if you like. I hate that term certainly when it comes to transfers, but that's the way it's kind of going to be from now. They're all going to have to be on the same page where possible. That isn't always the case. It wasn't always the case with Michael Edwards, Jurgen Klopp, and then Michael Edwards so often got the final say on transfers. It felt like certainly in the early days of his tenure, and it led us in good places. Mohamed Salah, for example. But yeah, I think the Michael Edwards thing's really interesting. This has been my sort of point on Slot ever since it was kind of announced early last week or early on the week that it was going to be him, because pretty much the entire fan base, maybe 99.9% of Liverpool fans, when they heard or it was confirmed that Michael Edwards was coming back, was like, happy days, Michael Edwards is back, everything's going to be fine now. Couldn't have wished for a better guy back at the club or involved in FSG to oversee this little period of transition whilst Klopp leaves and so on and so on. So you can't have that viewpoint, and then when he comes up with Arne Slot, go, don't fancy that Arne Slot guy much. That doesn't work for me. If you really back Michael Edwards and trust his judgment, you've kind of got to do the same with Arne Slot as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, 100%. I completely agree with that. You've got to get behind it. George, you mentioned before, and I want to say how back, so I think it's a good point, the timing of the announcement. Because there's a summer tournament this year, there's a Euros, and a lot of Liverpool players are going to be playing in that. I'm sure, well, I know for a fact loads of them will be. There's a couple of things that the new manager's got on his plate straight away, or Edwards, or whoever it is in charge. Like, Trent is going into the final year of his contract. Virgil van Dijk's going in. There's a Mo Salah question. There's all kinds of who do you want to buy, who do you want to sell. Like, if you wait till the summer for that, and then everyone goes on breaks, and then they're all playing in the Euros and they're all doing whatever, all of a sudden you lose a lot of time. By doing it at this time, you can start, I know you can find all managers. Technically, Michael Edwards doesn't even work for Liverpool at FSG yet, but it's all bollocks, they're all doing it. We know that. This period now gives everyone's fully aware. So the players, the manager, he's going to be in charge. He wants him. He doesn't want him. He doesn't want him. I actually think that's quite important. Why would Trent sign a new contract when he didn't know who the new manager was going to be? Why would Virgil do anything? You know what I mean? It feels like the time of this. This is probably why it's now, because they give themselves a month or whatever to try and maybe get a few ducks in a row before loads of players jet off on holiday and then jet off to a European competition.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it works for incomings as well. I mean, there's always reports of us throwing a bid in for this player or inquiring about another one. But if you're a player looking at Liverpool before sort of today and you don't know who the manager's going to be, why would you go there? Especially, it's not as if we've been linked with one type of manager that plays a specific formation or type of football. We've been linked with managers who were playing five at the back. This is looks like it's going to be a fairly similar system to the system that we already have. So maybe that'll definitely influence our summer business, but I think now they can crack on. And I mean, we've seen it before where Michael Edwards has got his business done really early, and that's something that I'd like to see us do again this year.
Especially with the tournaments, because they say Euros, Copa America, there's a lot going on. It does feel like you want, like you say, you are right, Liverpool want those players done before those tournaments. This gives you a bit more of a leeway to get that in, because...
Well, the valuations go up as well. If you want someone who's about to play in the Euros and they have a Bosch Euros, all of a sudden you're paying 15-20 million more at the back end of it, aren't you?
But also, they come back and you haven't got a deal done, and then, like, the season that we've just had, like, Ryan Gravenberch turns up on the last day, and he didn't have a pre-season with Liverpool, and listen, he's done okay, but he hasn't set the world alight. Whereas someone like a little bit, yeah. Whereas someone like Dom Szoboszlai, I know he ended the season in pretty bad nick, but he started like a house on fire. Alexis McAllister was there before. I think before he even went on the summer breaks.
Yeah.
It's no surprise that they settled better because they had a full pre-season. It really does matter. Liverpool will want to, like I say, go back to it, all their ducks in a row. Now they've got Edwards, Hughes, Arne Slot. There's no ambiguity. Everyone should be on the same page, and we can start going, right, I want to buy him, and we want them in early doors. That's what Edwards has tried to do as often as he can. Dan.
Yeah, that clarity of thought is massively important. It really is. It's imperative. Certainly when you're a football club of the size and stature of Liverpool, it's so crucial. And not just transfer-wise, ins and outs, that applies for, but also contractually as well, with Trent, Virgil van Dijk, the vice-captain and the captain I've just named there, but also Mohamed Salah. You know, his future feels a little bit different than the other ones I've just mentioned, but you want some clarity. You want to know where you stand. You want to know who the manager's going to be, the type of football you're going to be playing, etc., etc. Do you fancy the new manager? You think he is the one to carry on where Jurgen Klopp left off? So yeah, it's so important. It really is. It's crucial. And I'm glad. I think George said it earlier on. Like, I was made up that we got this sorted way before the season ended, because you don't want to be heading into a summer just not quite sure what's going on, who is it going to be, etc., etc. That's just a fan base, let alone a player or a potential new player for Liverpool. So yeah, and as you say there, Michael Edwards likes getting business done early, and I think there is some business to be done this summer. It's not a massive overhaul. There's no major rebuild going on like there was last time around, but there's definitely business to be done.